We'll see how that one comes out. Well, hey, I'm Pete Erickson, the founder of Modev, and welcome to GovAI Summit and AGENTIC. Welcome. Thank you. You know, we are definitely in interesting times, right? I was just talking to somebody a little bit ago and mentioned that I mentioned that I had 5 sisters. And she's like, wow, do you have brothers too? And I'm like, yeah, I have, I'm from a family of 10 kids, 5 boys, 5 girls, and I'm number 5. So, it's fitting that I'm organizing a conference in the middle of a government shutdown because I thrive in chaos. So this is like, I'm right at home, and this is perfect. But the only thing we need to worry about, we don't need to worry about the shutdown, because the only thing we need to worry about is the coffee not shutting down, right? The Wi-Fi not shutting down. And I think we got those things handled here. So for the next few days, we get to enjoy each other. We get to move this industry forward. And heck, who knows, we may develop an AI together that can figure out how to get the government open back up. That would be nice, right? But in all seriousness, we got a lot of conversations with a lot of feds, and in fact, a lot of feds are still registering for the conference because there's a lot of agencies that actually are still open. There are a lot of projects, especially AI, that are the highest priority that need to get implemented. So folks have a very important job to do related to AI, and we're not sure when the government's going to reopen. I think we can have a side bet for an over-under on that. I think it's, who knows, right? However, once we get to that point, which we will get to that point, the AI projects are going to be the highest priority across state, local, federal agencies, and a lot of the folks that are in this room are going to be paramount to making sure that those things get implemented. So many interesting conversations are going to happen over the next few days, and I am honored that I'm able to convene folks to have these conversations. It's always been my honor. I've been doing this for 15 years now. And this just brings me so much joy. You really do. This is where I get my energy. A lot of people to thank. Conferences, we've been working on this for a year. Conferences don't happen overnight. They're a group of people. They take a long time. They don't happen, and they're not even possible if we don't have partners. So let's give it up for all of our sponsors for this conference. Thank you, sponsors. Yes. It's really, and we have a number of conversations for the last couple of weeks, people feeling like, what's going to happen? Should we still come? Absolutely. I think that there may not be as many people here, but the people that are here are really important. And it is a chance for us to actually have conversations we may not have had otherwise. So, my encouragement is to take the time to connect with one another, be curious, and let's build good, lasting relationships. These events are not possible without a team. And I think as I've been doing this more and more, you learn just the importance of team, and you learn about letting go and letting people be professionals and get things done. The Modev team has been fantastic all year. Jamie Walking Bear, Rachel Keller, Jess Harder, Jade Decker, Linda Wynn, T. Barry, and Nugent. The list goes on and on of the team that's come around us and to produce this event. Let's give it up for the Modev team that's poured about this event. Thank you so much. And the speakers, I think I learned, the thing I was most impressed with when I organized my first conference back in 2010 was that just how important the speakers were and how much work they did to actually, before the conference ever happened. Months of work or weeks of work putting together the slides, the information to share with you. And we have an amazing lineup of speakers. Also, huge shout out to the federal leaders who are still going to be speaking at this event. But let's give it up for all speakers that are going to be here for the next couple of days. And a lot of them are here on their own time and their own dime because they're public servants. This is that important to them. And, so when you do have a chance to meet those folks, be sure to thank them for their service, find out how you can support them and help them. Super, super important. And then I guess, lastly, I want to thank you all. I want to thank our attendees for being here. And I honor you in what you're trying to do. My role in this is, I'm going to moderate this first panel, but then I'm going to hand the mic off. We have We have great moderators. JP Alter's going to be up here. He started moderating for me at the very first Voice Summit I did in 2018. He came over from London, brought his family. JP's going to be up here. Tiarne Hawkins is going to be moderating. Thank you, Tiarne. Lindsay Mastis is going to be hosting media stage interviews. Jennifer Ives is going to be moderating the second panel. So it just takes a team of people to help execute this. And yeah, so I'm just really excited. I get to hand off the mic and then I get to enjoy the conference. My role is to find out how I can support you. And I mean that in all sincerity. Events organizing, over the years, it's a service business. It is we're here to serve you. And when we do that well and make sure that every one of you has a good experience, that moves the industry forward. It makes our business better. So my role is to help you. My role is to support you. So come find me if whatever you need. If you want to meet somebody, if you want to speak at a future conference, talk to us about our future events. And I'll just mention those real quickly. So we go right from here. We go to CES, where we produce something called the AI House. The AI House last year was the #1 AI premium activation at CES. We'll be at the Las Vegas Convention Center on January 6th, all day and into the evening with a reception. If you're interested in being a part of that, definitely see me. And then we're also producing the very first premium workshops on site at CES. We're producing 6 workshops. Some of the workshop presenters are going to be here at this conference. I know JP, who's going to be today. He'll be doing one of the workshops. So that's pretty exciting. We have some really cool things happening at CES, and we go right from there to New York, where we are producing the AGENTIC AI stage for the National Retail Federation's Big Show, which starts January 11th. We're producing the AGENTIC AI stage, the AGENTIC AI roundtables, and the AGENTIC AI webinars, which are now scheduled out through the end of 2021. And then we reached an agreement to do a version of GovAI Summit for one day on April 7th at the Moscone Center in San Francisco at the HumanX conference. So we're really excited about that because we're going to bring the GovAI Summit out to the West Coast, and we have a great conference partner. 6,000 people are going to be attending that conference, and we're going to produce a one-day version of GovAI. So come see. If you want to get involved in any of those things, we love to have those conversations and bring more people together. And then stay tuned for more announcements about 2026, and we're working on all those things right now. All right, so let's get this in. Our first, we had a pivot, but we're going to have an amazing, oops, got that? Okay, good. All right. I want to bring up 2 panelists. Jonathan Aberman, he is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Hupside, Hupside. The interesting thing about this company is one of the first to really tackle this human to AI intersection and how much the workforce is changing. And as our workforce changes, and I don't know if you see this in yourself, but I definitely see it in myself. And listen, sometimes the more I rely on AI, maybe I feel my creative edge starting to burn off a little bit. And so I need to get that back. There is this human to AI intersection that companies can't lose. Otherwise, they're all just going to homogenize and end up being like one another because they're all relying on the same models. Human in the loop is so important. Hubside has built a platform to actually make sure that happens for enterprise and government organizations. Very, very innovative. They closed their pre-seed funding and they're off to the races. And so I'm excited to bring up Jonathan Aberman. And then Jennifer Ives, she was the head of the AI Center for Government. And she is now a strategic leader in AI and policy. And Jennifer and Jonathan, why don't you come up here and let's have a conversation. Please give it up for Jennifer and Jonathan. They're going to take their esteemed chairs. I'm going to stand here at the podium and we're going to have a conversation. Yes. Justin, the speaker that was going to be here this morning, is still coming. And Jonathan and Justin are going to do a fireside chat at 11:50 a.m. just before we break for lunch. So that's still going to happen. But let's get this conversation going. And by the way, I got to remember, I got right to 10:10. Perfect timing. Pat myself on the back here. All right. So, Jonathan, I made a brief introduction, but tell us a little bit more about you, a little bit of your background. I know you've been an investor, you've been around. What led you to, creating, to going all in on Hubside?
Well, I think probably the reason why all of us are here is the reason why I did it. So I know some of you, but I've been in the venture capital industry for a long time, and about a year ago, I had an opportunity to be with a scientist, and he showed me a technology that actually identifies whether or not somebody is exercising regional intelligence. And I asked him, so why is this important? And he said, well, because AI is going to homogenize everything. What's going to matter in the workforce is going to be the people who can add something special. I said, yeah, that's kind of interesting. What do you mean? He says, everybody has basically a couple of key things that drive them. One is a desire for safety. Another one is pattern recognition. And third is seeking the novelty. When I thought about it, it's like, you're absolutely right. That's actually what people do. So I got very excited about the technology. And then, frankly, I saw what was going on with the approach the AI was implementation was being taken, which I think I would describe as a version of the Hunger Games. Here's the technology, figure it out. And decided to stop being an investor and become a founder of Upside. So I'm going to be around for the next couple of days, talk about different venues, but it's very much a mission to get this technology out because we think it's important.
Thank you so much. Jennifer, you had a really interesting purview on the intersection of government, policy, and AI. Tell us a little bit more about your background and catch us up to speed.
Sure. So wonderful being with you all today. Thank you so much. I am a technologist. I'm a builder. I'm an innovator. I do all of those things in a world of data and AI. And about 10 years ago, I realized that in order to architect and implement this amazing technology, the leaders really needed to catch up with the technology, right? They needed to have a level of AI fluency to make these incredible decisions, to identify the challenges, the problems that they wanted to solve, and to really have thoughtful, thorough conversations about what type of technology would be appropriate for the solutions to their challenges. And so I have founded an AI company. I worked for some large AI and deep data with global companies, and most recently, as Eric mentioned, I had the pleasure of launching and leading with my team, and I've got some folks here from the AI Center in partnership with Public Service. And that was a real calling for me because it was a moment where I could bring knowledge around the world of AI, around the world of innovation, and this moment where leaders are asking for support, they're asking for help, they're asking for, a world where this technology is moving so quickly, they're asking for that guidance and support. And so through the AI Center for Government, we helped on many levels. One thing that that the AI Center does in particular is help leaders through the AI Government Leadership Program. And we work with senior level executives from federal, state, and local, right? And they could be the technology leaders, and they can also be the programmatic leaders, and really getting them moving forward in their AI journey. So it's been an incredible opportunity. And now it's time for me to go back into industry and get close again to the R&D and the technology and start building again. So that's what we are all about. And really, AICenterforGovernment.org. Check them out if you're not already familiar with the program, with the nonprofit, please, Partnership with Public Service, AI Summit for Government.
Thank you, Jennifer. So this year, the American AI Action Plan came out. It's really a roadmap, if you will. But how do you really feel like that's changing the landscape with regards to public sector and the implementation of AI, and kind of maybe the speed at which public sector servants are expected to implement AI, still with the same guardrails and acquisition rules and regulations, and not saying throw all those out, but it's sort of like hey, it's go time. How do public sector officials put themselves in a better position for go time?
Wait a minute, we're going to talk about this on the second field too, so you're going to get a lot of good information about this topic today, and you're in the middle of it, right? Whether if you're a public sector leader, and then also those in the private sector that are supporting and helping public sector leaders. With the new AI Action Plan, there are kind of three pillars, and one in particular, or what they all lead to, is innovation. It's how quickly can we reach a point of innovation within the public sector to guide, to become even more curious, to guide, to put these models in place, to put the AI solutions in place. And so they're absolutely need to have guardrails and governance around that, and we're just finding that the innovation, right, that the new administration would like to see the innovation move much faster.
Thank you. Yeah, Jonathan, please.
I think the technical term I'd use is mayhem, basically. You're always
Club.
Well, no, seriously. Look, we have some fundamental problems with respect to how to actually deal with this public sector, private sector leaders. First one is the conflation of a bunch of different things into a single term. Because often what's happening is people who don't necessarily understand the nuances are saying, go use AI. Well, it's okay. Are you talking about chatbots? Are you talking about agents? Are you talking about plain old machine learning? What are you talking about? And the implications are actually different for all three. And I think that the reality is that most of us have been using artificial intelligence the way it used to be defined for years now. It's embedded in a lot of the software that we're already using. And frankly, it's proven to be very useful. What we have right now is we have, I think it's fair to say, we have an industry that's in love with its technology to the point where it's really capturing mind share. There's a lot of conversation around, are we going to have super intelligence and when it's going to happen? Meanwhile, these tools are being pushed out. So even if we don't want to roll them out in our environments, our people are using them. So I think mayhem is the best way to describe it. And if you're not feeling overwhelmed, I'm glad for you. I think the good news is that coming to conferences like this or talking with people in the field, there are tools you can use to try and manage it. But there also are best practices that are out there, and there's ways to manage AI transformation. But the reality is that you're not going to see gold-plated best practices imposed or rules like we have in the European community governing behavior. It's just not the way things will go work here.
Yeah, and to your point, Jonathan mentioned artificial intelligence has been around for many, many years. It didn't just kind of pop onto the scene 2.5-ish years ago, get added to ChatGPT. And likely before you even got to the conference this morning, you touched or interacted, whether you knew it or not, or meant to or didn't, or you probably touched and interacted with AI at least 5 times, right? From the time you woke up until you got back here. And so this technology has been in our lives for much longer than I think that we talk about on a regular basis. And I think it's important to realize that the marketing around the term artificial intelligence really took off about 2.5 years ago. But the technology has been around for many decades, and particularly in our lives for many years. So I would take and mention it if they're on a long time. And then the innovation piece, it is so great as leaders, right? Whether we're in the public sector, the private sector, the nonprofit sector, it is so critical, so important to have a culture within your organization, and a culture of curiosity and creativity, and from the top down, really guide your organization. Again, whether it's public sector, private sector, nonprofit, really guide your organization to be curious, to test, to want to ask the questions, to want to work with a team from the bottom up. Where are their friction points? How are you identifying this? So from a public sector perspective, the curiosity, I've had the honor and the lesson to work with federal, state, and local leaders in many, many different formats. And again, that curiosity, the courageousness to ask the questions, to understand where these guardrails should be, even with the governance or every administration is going to have their own perspective on artificial intelligence, right? Their own policies, and I think it's really important as leaders we have an idea as to what governance and responsible AI looks like to you, and take that forward in a world of rapid innovation.
Yes.
You mentioned something that really, a lot of what you say resonates with me, not surprisingly. But culture. This is a part that is really important to me. I've been a lot of you have been involved with change management over the years. You can't be a leader and not ultimately be involved with change management. And what's not being widely understood, and we'll talk about it a lot over the next 2 days, you've stopped by the booth or so forth. AI transformation is culture. It's culture change.
Yes.
And
It is, yeah.
Oh, that's good. Well said.
So Thursday, try to chicken. Anyway, but it is, and so listen. When I had that moment where I went home and said to my long-suffering wife Veronica, you know, I'm going to go and be a startup founder again. It was because I felt that so many of the conversations we're having right now was you either had efficiency through AI or you were talking with human values. And if you come by the booth, you'll see at the point, you'll help sites to identify the economic value that humans provide. So you now have a conversation about how AI and humans can interact together and create value. It's really important because we have to start having a conversation around AI is a great tool, but we make tools. Humans are tools. But how we use the tools is actually an indicator of how we add value. So at the end of the day, culture. Here's a tool, use it to make us constituents' life better. How? Or use this tool because it'll make you more effective. Okay, how? Why? And those questions need to be answered or successful AI transformation. And leaders, you can only lead two ways, right? Dictate or serve. That's it. There's only two ways you can lead. Make somebody do it or ask them to do it. And right now in AI, there's too much do this, and there's not enough here's how and here's why. And I think that's why ultimately culture is going to be the driver of how to get the most out of these schools.
I think you bring up a great point. One thing that is, there's this widely publicized study, I can't remember actually who did it just recently, that 90% of pilot projects are failing in AI, in the enterprise, right? Well, the government can't withstand that kind of, can't pilot that fast. They have to be more precise on the front end, and it presents an interesting challenge. And I think that, well, one thing, Sean, how many people here can help the government innovate and implement around AI? All right, so see, I think the Yes. Yeah, I think the partnership between public and private has a lot of room to improve with regards to acquisitions and success of acquisitions. And I think that might hit back to the cultural thing that you were talking about.
Well, so Justin and I talk about this a lot, and what will happen in a little while. I think it's really important to get back to definitions. There are use cases where AI in government is incredibly useful, incredibly efficient once it's actually deployed well. And even there, you're going to need humans to actually intervene and make sure that it's like hallucinations or bad results or sometimes human results stuff for human. But there are other parts where you start to get to say high value ready consulting. A lot of what this region does very well, where I think it's more a good question is whether or not the current state of play for large language models is sufficient to substitute for human judgment, and I think not. But, I think we should see if I can get some nuance out of Justin about that, Pogla.
I agree. I think the human piece of artificial intelligence is critical. Human beings are the thinkers, right? AI is the thinking. So Hesse Kauser-Cobb, I don't know if anyone follows her, but she was the chief decision scientist at Google for many, many years, and she coined the term for the phrasing of thinking versus thinking. And the brilliance of human beings to think and to create and to understand the nuances in what these models bring forward. That's where the beauty is, right? And the cunning of the AI to allow artificial intelligence in the background to do kind of the calculations and kind of whatever it is, whenever your friction point, right? Let it kind of cloak through that, and move through that as the human being thinks. And yes, you can get that information much faster and much quicker. And public, it's just it's making the services that it is providing to us, right, as human beings, as citizens of this great country and world. It's a really beautiful thing, and the people, the human aspect of it, cannot and should not go away. And so when people talk about kind of AI this and AI that, I quickly roll them back to, and where's the human in this conversation? Where's the culture organization of the conversation? I love nothing more than to architect and to build, right? I'm a builder, but you can't do so is leadership, incredibly smart, dedicated, brilliant leadership who was hit with this tidal wave of artificial intelligence 2.5-ish years ago. We've all agreed to learn a lot longer, but 2.5-ish years ago, when it kind of became part of our everyday lexicon, this tidal wave hit, and you have to get back to supporting leaders, understanding the information that they need to make the decisions around artificial intelligence, and to help them understand what that culture might look like, and the human piece of when you and I forward to answer the question, or to at least try to identify what's the problem we're trying to solve. What is the service that we're trying to get to our constituents, right, to our citizens faster, more effectively, more efficiently. So again, it's a soft side of this technology, which is kind of interesting for me to talk about, and to have come around to about 10 years ago, being a technologist. I love nothing more than to build, but we can't build if leaders aren't asking the right questions and don't have the support to carry that forward. And I mention that, and I think we've talked about it between the two of us many times on stage this morning, because I walk into rooms often with brilliant leaders, and they're still struggling. They believe that having a conversation around artificial intelligence is, let's figure out the architecture and the implementation. And again, I try to boil them back to, what is the problem we're trying to solve? What is the service that you're trying to deliver? Let's spend some time there. Do your teams have the learning and development around AI to help you deliver this moving forward?
Jump.
So let me ask you a couple of questions there. First one is, how many of you hit zero or immediately try to figure out how to get to human when you're grilling with AI, or you're trying to deal with a company or an airline with anybody out want to raise their hands? Right? How many of you would rather have somebody give you really bad news than have a computer tell you? Anybody? Right? How many of you get pissed off when you get a memo from somebody that's clearly replaying AI? Why? You know why? Because we're novelty engineers, and we desire novelty. We desire to be respected. So the fundamental issue that we're not really talking about is that at the end of the day, we live in a capitalist society where people spend their money and their attention and their time on things that make you feel good. And we feel good because we feel safe. We feel good because we're in a situation where things feel familiar, and we were getting something different. That's the way we're wired. So until you figure out how to give all the AI bots cryptocurrencies, they could trade together and have their own economy, I'm being slightly flipped on. The reality is that humans are slowly consume everything, including government services. So the only issue right now is a question of degree. That's the only issue. You know, I love working with Virginia DMV, where I don't have to talk with humans to be able to get stuff done. Don't get me wrong, it's wonderful. But I like it that if there's a problem, I can pick up the phone and talk to somebody and say, we're Social Security, IRS. The point being is that you can have effective government and have people involved doing the things that they can't do or intermediate. You can have effective government contributors to provide the insight that chatbots can't provide. You can do all these things, but the first thing we have to do is break out of this idea, and I've heard this, and I bet you have too. We need to talk about the role of humans. Oh no, we can't do that. Why? Because they will hold back the progress of AI, and the Chinese will win. How many times have you heard that? Right? If we constrain in any way the development of AI, the Chinese will win. First of all, no. And secondarily, if winning means that humans have no value and we don't have a place in society, is that winning? I think not. So that's why it's so important to keep in mind culture and these things we're talking about.
Amen to that. What are some of the things you have on your mind? I'm going to pop off the stage here. We got 5 more minutes. So let's. Anybody have a burning desire or something you want to share? What comes to mind? Are there any issues? Anything about policy or this human that? Okay, I'm going to walk out here. Just going to take a little walk. I'm going to go down this aisle right here. I'm going to bring the mic over to you. Well, like I said, this one, right? All right. Please introduce yourself, name and company.
Uber Project Ideation. We are a field prime contractor, and we focused only on a couple of agencies so that we can have a moat is up. You know, you said the novelty, you have no impact. And so that has actually helped us get it to the AI customers, and we have happy that we actually have some GenAI apps out there. And I agree with both of you, 100%. The biggest challenge, like you talked about the novelty and individualism, is to have, and I've asked this to many vendors too, how do you manage memory, collective memory of me, having gone this place, that place, this place. Each vendor, big large LLMs are able to do context and memory even. A few days ago, Power brought their skills, and it just changes every time. So for us, as people who are thinking of innovative solutions, we could just wait another 2 months and something else, but in the LLM would have brought that in. So what we thought is that human knowledge that can augment what the knowledge quality that LLMs have, but not just on a rack basis, but really at a core memory basis.
So it's interesting you asked that.
Thank you.
So I'm not going to give any particular trade secret up, but we use our own version of chat a lot internally, right? And a lot of the way we use it is we're always sharing, the information at the joint. So in a funny way, I find the more that we use our instance of it, the more it's basically capturing, the information and knowledge that we're reflecting at the back of us. And I think that we probably will see much more of that develop over time. That's number one. Number two, and this is why I'm a big believer in I think that one of the big opportunities we have in the Washington PC government contract community is to really fight hard to demonstrate that you can't manage AI and the currency of it without having people that are adept at making changes in the end with that. And that's one of the things that we're hopefully will be bulky will demonstrate. So the answer is that this is a great example of how you use AI to keep up with AI. My opinion, whatever he's rubbing for is, it's not an either or, it's an and. AI costs humans create real value add. So I think what you're describing is, I'm sure you are, but if you're not, I would really lean into it just as much information as I could to my own proprietary LLM. And be asking on a regular basis, where do you see, what are the demand signals, where do you see this going? I find you get hallucinations, but frankly, you also get some insights you haven't thought of. Not using it that way ever did.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, we got one right here. Please introduce yourself.
I am Matt Grelu, analytical consultant in AI, and I wanted to just make a couple comments on top of your comments. One is when we talk about human in the loop and the human's role. I 100% agree, it's humans plus AI. But I think we have to just keep asking that question over and over and over again, particularly with, agentic AI and all the future technologies that would be there. So I don't think we ever should stop asking that question and take it as a settled issue. If for no other reason to make sure we're saying, no, we still need the humans. And then the other thing you have about, culturally, I think culture is such a huge, huge importance, because when you have, like in the US right now, current action plan, when you have these, vague pronouncements, have the detailed line that we're still going to be responsible and we're still going to do it for human flourishing and all of that, it's still up to us then to say, yes, this is what we're going to do, and demand that from our organizations, from the companies we interact with, where we get our AI from, because it is a cultural mindset, and whether it's voluntary or not voluntary or vague definition as opposed to like what's in the EU, I think it's important to have that cultural responsible mindset. And the more we can do to foster that, and I'd like to get additional thoughts from you on, additional ways to keep fostering that mindset.
Thank you. You want to comment on that? And then this is going to be our last comment, but we got to get to our next panel.
Actually, I do. The driver of this is going to be work slog, plain and simple. It just, liability, getting wrong answers, having people use these tools in an unprepared way is, frankly, I think the biggest threat that corporate America will face. And so in the corporate world, put aside government, even if the government doesn't want to regulate how AI is used, I'm already having conversations with organizations who are very concerned about risk management. So I think the reality is that the nature of the tools ultimately is going to prove the argument.
Thank you, Jonathan. Well, listen, this has been a great conversation to kick us off. I think it really set the tone that we are in an industry that is not just one thing. AI is many things. It is a human to technology issue, and it's a responsible AI issue. And I think so many of us here, we know that, we live that. Responsible AI is part of our mission. Let's give it up for Jennifer and Jonathan this morning. Thank you so much.